There you go.
The greatest song ever written.
That is beautiful. I love
Greatest song. Of course, it sounds way better when you have even more distortion.
True.
Make it sound like
this thing is too much.
Too
much is just enough, as they say.
A lot of folks have done covers of that. A lot of big stars, singers, guitarists, and yeah.
It's interesting. It's only 2 verses. It's a very short song. There's 2 very short verses, but it really is iconic.
It is iconic. And you're right. You wouldn't have so many big name acts doing covers of it for their albums if it wasn't one of the best songs ever.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Clapton, you had Jeff Beck do it. You had every single guitar player you can imagine covering it. But, it's weird, man. So I play it quite often at jams and stuff like that, and have buddies that are really good guitar players that get up on stage and we jam it. And I always tell them, I was like, dude, that turnaround, man, soloing through that turnaround, you can hear some of the best guitar players in the world just totally screw it up, and in fact, you can tell. I mean, if you're a player, you can sense when a really good player is getting nervous about a certain part of a song, and man, it trips up. Like guys not Joe Satriani, but I've heard Steve Vai struggle through that change, and it's like weird. And I have friends that go, "Oh, no, I know how to go and play through that change," and then they'll get to that part. It's just like egg on your face. So Jimi was awesome, man.
He was awesome. Stevie Ray Vaughan does a good job of covering that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, Stevie Ray did
dude. When I first heard that version, I was just like, oh my god! And he died before he could put he could lay down the vocals for that, right?
Yeah.
Stevie Ray Vaughan routinely kind of channeled Hendrix a lot,
amazing talent.
Another good cover from a vocal side from a million years ago is Sting did that cover. And
That's right. I remember that. I think it was on one of his albums, right?
On his albums. And, it was probably more about the vocals, but he nailed it. It was great. The way he sang it was beautiful.
Yeah. Nice.
Sting.
Yeah. You can never go wrong. Hey, everybody in IoT Coffee Talk land. Welcome. And just want to make sure that everybody likes, subscribes, and does all that social media and YouTuber stuff before we get started.
Smash that like button.
Exactly.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
That ding, ding, bell, so that you can get notified when the next, informative but highly annoying episode drops. And remember, we're on what are we on? We're on Buzzsprout. So we're on every single
Spotify,
podcast
iTunes,
channel that you can imagine through the known metaverse.
Netflix, Paramount Plus. I mean, you name it.
It's just outrageous.
Buy us on Amazon.
Yeah,
Amazon.
Anywhere they're broadcasting the Super
Max,
Aliens have already heard our transmission. It's already crossed the universe.
That's right.
Yeah, we're planetary defense. They heard the transmission and said, "Look, we can avoid that planet."
That's right.
Fact,
Nothing interesting going on there.
Nothing good happening there. That's a bad idea.
These guys can't even get IoT straight. Jeez.
These guys are talking about some failed movement.
Oh man, how's it going, man? We missed you. You missed out on the Vision Pro episode.
Epic Vision Pro.
Oh my god.
Was that last Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
I was at an offsite. I was in Greenville, South Carolina, at an offsite. Who would have guessed?
That's quite offsite. Yeah.
Yeah. Just spending a few days with a marketing firm. Anyway, hey, I just want to say a shout out to Greenville, South Carolina. I had no idea, don't know anything about it. Turns out it's a really nice town.
Yeah, cool. I heard South Carolina is a pretty cool place to live too. There's a lot of folks going into that area.
Yeah, I liked
Carolinas,
it. Yeah, I thought it was really nice. And we weren't down by the coast, but you're kind of about only an hour away from. I've been to Asheville, North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Charlotte, all that stuff.
Yeah,
nice places.
Yeah. So I liked it. So props.
I was so inspired, Leonard, from last week's episode. I went to the Apple store and did like a full demo tour of the Vision Pro.
Oh, really? How was it?
Which is cool. Yeah, really impressive. I mean, obviously I had a lot of what we were talking about in my head.
Yeah.
Trying this stuff out. And it was definitely very cool. I definitely felt it on my face. I felt it like I was definitely wearing it. But yeah, definitely impressive. I mean, I've used HoloLens. I've used a bunch of these things like you have. And it's definitely a different experience. And I think a bunch of us were commenting last night on Rob's post, a repost of Zuckerberg's defense of the Oculus, which I swore was an AI generated video. I'm like, there's no way he got on there and said that. But, really I guess.
He looked like he had a bad night or a bad day or a bad week. I don't know.
He woke up at 2 a.m. and decided to record a video.
Yeah, usually, he's pretty well kept. And then, the shirt that he wears usually is pretty tight so he can show off his buffness. And he looked he didn't look well.
It was not good. It was, it was like it's like waking up at 2 a.m. and like having a panic dream about Apple and then like recording a video to defend your product.
Yeah. I have to say though, whatever we thought about it, I'm a big fan of returning fire, and don't just go quietly into the night when some new competitor pops up. It's his company. It's his product. He's poured so much money into.
But I think the thing is like, and I'm curious what your take is on this. It's like, this is still such a nascent market. This is not about like, killing the other headset. It's like they got to grow the market, and these, it's like for the 12 people that use these things on a regular basis, like,
that's it.
Can we get it to like 12 million and then start like kind of killing each other, as opposed to like, like, don't buy that other headset. Like, no, everyone buy all the headsets and like, let's like figure out where these things.
You're right. There's like 12 people using these things. It's the earliest of early days.
I know. And it's like not the time. It's time to grow the pie. I mean, you got to grow
Apple, right? But we've seen what Apple's done in the past. I mean, I remember when they first announced the Apple Watch, and people were just making fun of the thing. They said, "Oh my God, look at that! No one's going to wear it. Oh my God, it's square. Well, how come it's not a circle?" I mean, just all these really irrelevant, really closed-minded, quite honestly, perspectives on, and then look at it. I mean,
it sells more than all other luxury watch brands combined.
In the same way that it seems like everybody has a Tesla, everybody has an Apple Watch.
Yeah. Kind of. I mean, it is a little bit scary, but
it seems like it overnight. Everywhere I go, everyone has an Apple Watch.
Yeah,
everybody. It's crazy. Yeah, it is. Which could backfire after a while when people start to go, "Wow, I'm not unique anymore." It was cool when I was like the first person on my block.
But it's interesting, the Android Wear. I mean, the watches are still coming out. They're going to announce a few new ones at NWC apparently, and the phone guys. For the phone manufacturers, this is like another kind of extension for them and another opportunity to get some upside. So it's still out there, but it's just like it's an interesting case study in sort of a more fractured open ecosystem for watches versus the country club sort of bespoke Apple model, and how the two are doing out there.
Wow, you nailed it right there. Your country club, all you country club Apple Watcher people
who can have chicken, fish, or salmon. That's it, but they're all delicious. All three meals.
Yeah,
but that was only the three you get.
You left your Rolex at home and wore your Apple Watch to the country club, and you passed by all those peasants with their Android watches.
Yeah.
At the public swimming pool,
At the public swimming pool. Yeah.
A public swimming
That's so bad, but it's so right.
But remember, Open is just a field, a massive field of walled gardens. I mean, that's really what it is.
True.
It's just that those walled gardens just don't have walls that are as high.
That's true. They never really took advantage of the ecosystem itself, like the interoperability. Like they didn't build an ecosystem from different manufacturers that could interchange a lot of apps. Like Samsung kind of took it and ran with it, and everyone, Honor took it and ran with it. So yeah, kind of got the worst of both worlds on that one.
Well, I think not enough people talk about the downsides of open. Open's not great all the time, and it is kind of delusional to think that it's better somehow than proprietary, when proprietary, bespoke, and vertically integrated oftentimes kicks the crap out of open every day of the week. We see it all the time, even in Open RAN.
Open RAN's a great example.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with open, and if you're going to be a player going in open, it serves a certain purpose, but at some point you're gonna be red hatting,
right?
You're going to scale out. You're going to become sort of the bad boy. I mean, look at Red Hat is off nowadays is not entirely considered an open player, right? They have their flavor, so you have open flavors, and so how does that work out? Not as
I think
as the
open people in their mind, they're in the original Apple commercial, and they're the ones throwing the hammer at the screen of IBM and power to the people, and we're taking down the man and all that kind of stuff. And I think their heart might be in the right place, or there's certainly that enthusiasm and energy. We're going to break this whole thing open instead of it being monopolized by this evil corporation in Gotham,
But the problem is that at the end of the day, the customer doesn't care. They don't care about if it's open. They really don't. I mean, it's like these guys going, the Vision Pro App Store only has 600 native applications. It's like, you need 1 million? I mean, does the consumer really want options, or do they just want the best experience?
Yeah. So there is a thing about do people really want choice, or do they really want just what works for them? They don't necessarily want the choice. As long as the choice works for them, that's enough choice. And
like operators, they don't care about choice. Right. Really, at the end of the day, they just want an option so they can negotiate price down a little bit more, maybe get the Apple. Yeah,
they don't want to be locked in, artificially locked in. And just like anybody does, they don't want to be artificially locked in. But I think with Open RAN, there was an article I posted this morning from the Washington Post. It was interesting to see them write about Open RAN and how the U.S. government's pushing it as a kind of a Huawei mitigation strategy and all that. It was interesting perspective because it was much more of a, I would say a layperson political view of Open RAN. But I think eventually Open RAN becomes more of a series of implementations from a series of vendors. They're not necessarily interchangeable, but you'll buy into the Ericsson Open RAN solution, and Ericsson will validate all the stuff that works with their solution, and it's Open RAN, but it's not exactly plug and play. It's not going to be completely go down and buy a super micro down at your local Fry's and climb up the tower and stuff. It's not going to be like that.
Yeah. And all those people, the champions of Open RAN, Mr. Baker is going, oh, the idea that just saying Ericsson Open RAN in the same sentence is like, well, we've been fighting the good fight to create this. How does one of those evil incumbents get to monopolize our thing?
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
good game.
There's so much irony. Obviously, the average user has no idea what we're talking about, but people in the space know exactly who the Open RAN champions are, throwing their hammer at the in the Apple store, and then Apple ends up using their stuff.
Oh, I mean, come on, man! It happens in IoT as well, right? Everyone's talking. I mean, Mark, if he was on here, he would be tearing our heads off, right? Saying bad things about open. But hey, the Honeywells and the Siemens and all these guys with the legacy stuff and their walled gardens. Well, guess what? They're adapting, and they're only opening up and using open standards and technologies in a way that helps their customers, right? But the big challenge for the open IoT community has always been, well, how do you actually play in those heterogeneous environments? Because no environment is entirely single vendor, right? There's always a layer that's either forming or a periphery where things are expanding, where you can play. But I mean, I think everyone's attention was, we have these IoT platforms, we're just going to come in and rip and replace, and everyone's going to rip and replace everything for all these hypothetical reasons that actually, you know, a lot of the OT guys don't even give a crap about. Do you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, they don't want updates every single week or day. It's like they'll be more like, why are you updating our crap all the time? And you know, what are you doing? And
I was in the middle of my call and it got interrupted because you did a software update to your Open RAN on my cell tower.
Yeah. It's like
my base station got updated.
Yeah, it's like, but then, you know, the whole idea that you're just going to roll shit out from your SDLC processes into production. It's like, where are you getting this?
Yeah.
You still have to test it. You know,
funny.
Like, where are you getting these ideas that you're just gonna friggin', you know, throw crap up against the wall and then see if it sticks in production? I don't get that.
I had a flashback. I just had a flashback related to Open and being the good guys and all that. I had a flashback to, it was one of the Java 1 events, I don't know, late 90s or whatever. And Scott McNeely is usually doing the keynote since he's the CEO son. And I remember him just saying, so remember, open standards, open APIs, And don't forget, remember, we're the ones wearing the white cowboy hats out there. And he was just trying to convey that they were the good guys, that Sun was the good guys as they sank into the sea and had an asset sale to Oracle at the end.
And they had their white hat floating on the top of the water.
They were the good guys. My takeaway is Sun. I thought they were brilliant engineering, great engineering culture, great, a lot of stuff they created. The problem with Sun, it was like you were a professor at a university. It was very collegial, very smart, and everything like that. They weren't ruthless. They weren't like Larry Ellison. They weren't like Bill Gates or Steve Ballmer. They were, you know what I mean? As far as business goes.
Yeah.
They didn't know, they weren't going for the jugular when it came to hardcore business. They were really smart, but they thought they were all at Berkeley or Stanford every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about how many of these ventures never make it. Do you know what I'm saying? All these wonderful engineering ideas that come out of academia that really don't have impact. And you know, I don't think having a good sense of market and end user value is something that they intrinsically tune into, right? I mean, I've in a lot of the conversations I've had with startups, I'm always astonished how naive some of these leaders are, right? It's like, okay, where are you getting this? And then you know, just recently I talked to a startup and they floated some numbers at me, and it's just it still happens. It's weird. So I guess there's a big problem that we still need to solve. Some of these numbers were from particular organizations that have a tendency to throw out unrealistic, unjustified big numbers, right? And I told them, no, you know what? Here, let me give you a couple pointers, and I'll tell you, you need to redo your strategy. Your phase 1 is a very bad phase 1. You will lose. You can't scale out enough in phase 1 to survive. This is here are the problems that you might want to think about solving. But what you have on your pitch deck, if I was a VC, and most VCs probably don't think this way because they get things so wrong all the time. If I was a good VC, I would say, no, guys, this is not going to fly.
Well, I think a lot of companies struggle with, you know, who are they taking dependencies on for their success? And, you know, who are you assuming is going to do what to help you scale? And how are you sort of, you know, really baking that into your plans? And who do you need to really help you scale? And I think a lot of companies struggle with that because they build a great product. They know their customer. They're getting good feedback. But as you know, this is a team sport and you need to have other people sort of, you know, helping you enable your scale. And a lot of folks are like, they sort of, you know, struggle, I think, with kind of securing those kinds of dependencies. And and things. So yeah, it happens.
That's such a weird deal. At the same time, I don't want to bash an engineering culture. I prefer an engineering culture, and we see what happens when, no offense to all you MBA bean counters out there, but when you march in the MBAs and they destroy the engineering culture, and then the company, Boeing, takes a nosedive, because safety and quality.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. But I see that happen. All right, the serious business people are here now. The MBAs are here. We're going to fix your company, and they wreck the company.
Yeah. But it's always a balance, but it's always like, there was a podcast, Scott Galloway does a good podcast, a lot of podcasts, but there was someone on there recently this week talking about tech companies and how they scale it's like, do they really, it's one thing to be successful. It's another to really do the 10x scale, that investors are really expecting these days. Like if you're not growing at 10x,
right,
then you're not really going to be a player. And I talk to a lot of companies that have a good business, but that is a struggle. It's like, well, how do we really add a zero to this business?
Which kind of goes against what I just said. I mean, you need that great engineering culture, but these hardcore engineers may know nothing about growing a business rapidly at all.
That's true. And how do you get
they can build the thing
they need?
Well,
you need the product truth too. Yeah. So, we see that a lot. But it's pretty clear, though, when you do meet companies that have it together, it's pretty obvious that they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, usually, what are you guys talking about?
We were just talking about this, just that investors these days are looking for this 10x scale for tech companies. And like, if they're not seeing it, then, you might exist for a while, but you're never really going to exit. Anything
I mean, things are so speculative. It's... it's disturbing. You know what I'm saying?
This is why a lot of founders get replaced by the VC firm, because they don't have what it takes to get that trajectory.
Or the founder becomes the CTO, and then
that's right. That's right.
It's like you bring in the CEO, and then there's like a whole thing going on there. So
it might work out. Yeah. I was thinking of, I mean, we talked about it before with that movie, the BlackBerry movie that came out last summer. That's a classic example. All right, the hard driving, kind of salesy guy comes in to be the CEO. But it worked for BlackBerry,
right?
Because it was just a bunch of smart engineer hacker guys putting stuff together, but they needed an accelerant.
The channel and all that stuff. Well, but it didn't really work for Microsoft, though, when Steve Ballmer took over, right? So
no. And Steve Ballmer, I have to give him credit. I think he's one of the best salesmen of all time. He created the greatest sales organization in the world.
Yeah.
But I guess, as you hear the cliche, stay in your lane, Ballmer should have stayed where he was great and head of sales, right? He created this amazing enterprise sales organization.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean you should be the CEO.
True. Although he did bring in Ray Ozzie. I mean, he had some good tech. There's no shortage of great tech minds there. It's just that for some reason, during his tenure, I think the stock was flat for about 8 years under his tenure.
And there's some backstory politics around Ballmer and Ray's relationship. Ballmer I saw him publicly chastise Ray and beat up on him, like on stage and stuff.
Ouch.
Ray only could take so much, because you're right. Ray was there to be the replacement for Bill.
He was the Bill V2.
Actually, to be that tech visionary. But Ballmer wasn't. I don't know. That was a weird deal. But thank you, Ray, because without Ray, we wouldn't have Azure.
No, that's true. Wouldn't have Azure. Wouldn't have Lotus Notes.
That's right.
Oh, I love Lotus Notes.
It's true.
And Blues Wireless and all that good stuff. So, he's still chugging. So that's good.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. I think it's cool. By the way, Alistair is over at Blues.
We should maybe, Rob, we should pitch our little Windows Phone WTF series here. Speaking of Microsoft. So, Rob and I have been working on a 9-part podcast on the rise and fall of Microsoft's mobile platform.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a live stream. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? So we started a community group. There's about 500 plus people in this community.
Oh, wow.
And we're sort of co-creating the series with them. And we had a live stream and talked about the guests that we're going to have, including Peter Canuck and Joe Belfiore and a bunch of other folks. It's going to be pretty cool. And, but it goes through this whole 20-year history of Microsoft's mobile platform effort from Pegasus CE through Windows Mobile, Zune, Kin, Windows Phone until sunset in 2017.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's going to come in March. So we're going to do our first interviews in first week of March, and then we'll get the show together. So probably first episode will come out in March and come out every 2 weeks. But cool. That's been fun to sort of dig through that. And I had someone contact me over the weekend. He said, "Oh, my wife and I helped organize the Windows Phone parade. Remember the parade with the Thriller dance scene and all that stuff?" And so he was giving me all this backstory on that.
That's awesome.
Remember they had the iPhone funeral and all that stuff. So
I'm sure this is going to be such a powerful podcast series that they'll probably end up putting it in the Smithsonian.
Probably they should.
Important part of American history.
Or what's that one in Seattle, the Museum of Technology, or what's that?
Kind of like in Soto or whatever.
That thing, that Museum of Industry.
There's like, there's like that living computer thing that was a Paul Allen deal. And so kind of like the thing you have down in the valley, the Computer History Museum there. This one's not as big as that, obviously, but all the computers, you can sit down and play with all of them. They all work. You can sit down and play with the Apple Lisa until you go.
So they should have our show there with headphones on. People,
we should. I remember doing back in the mobile days, we did a MVP event there. And so we had all the MVPs and they thought it was the coolest thing, geeking out over these old computers.
Yeah, all the old machines. But people can join this Windows Phone WTF if you search for it on LinkedIn. You can join the community and participate in some of the remembrances. And then we sort of send out a little info about our pre-production efforts there. So it's kind of fun.
Exactly. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good. Yeah. I mean, these are all these threads, these stories that go through the tech industry.
Yeah.
Things that, like we're talking about the Vision Pro, or you got your Macintosh behind you there. All those things are stories that people talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Andreea.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm late.
No.
Time got away from me. I was engaged in something else, and I meant to leave that
I'm sure it was more important than this.
meeting.
Valentine's Day.
Nice.
It's Valentine's Day.
Just see what I found in the kitchen.
This is basically her sending a reminder to us that we need to go get flowers.
You know what to do.
My mom reminded me this morning. She goes, today is Valentine's Day. It's like, yes, I do.
There you go.
So what's new? What have you been talking about?
We were reminiscing about, we were talking about sort of open ecosystems and the pluses and minuses of that, and kind of reminiscing about companies that try to scale and struggle with maybe their technology versus their business, and kind of meandering here. We're meandering.
Yeah, open ecosystems will do that to you.
Yes. You can get lost in the open ecosystem wilderness.
Lost it. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think, Andreea? You're right. There's closed systems, walled garden, kind of like we think about the iPhone and all that. And then there's open systems, and they have different pluses and minuses, and some are easier to execute on than others. And I really wonder. I mean, if you look at in wireless systems, there's the cloud ecosystem, right? So it used to be all closed, right? Packet data, circuit data, pretty closed. And now it's the cloud ecosystem with lots of vertical layers and testing and partnership. And who's spending all that money? This is what I'm curious about. Who's spending all that money? Because at the end of the day, when you sell these systems, you cannot charge a whole lot for those licenses, Right. Especially in the wireless field. I mean, there's some things I know, right, from the past. They don't change a whole lot. These are not hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts.
Right. And even though it's called open, it doesn't necessarily mean everything just works together. There's work to make it work.
It's a lot of work to make it work. Yes, it's a lot of work. So you got all the hardware with, you know, the compute storage, networking, and all that, and then the layers that go in the stack. And then just when you think you've nailed the stack, they're like, oh yeah, well, we need this thing with hooks. Oh, we need something else. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, Kubernetes, this is the answer. Kubernetes is gonna help us all.
Put it in a container.
And yes. And it's, as a technologist, is very interesting. Yeah. But then also as a technologist, where my mind goes is in asking questions about how is this going to work long term when you do all these upgrades. How do you differentiate as a vendor in that ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. Or are you just relinquishing that desire to differentiate? Are you just going to be supporting your customer? Yeah, we all want to support our customers. There's no doubt, right? But do you relinquish that desire to differentiate? Where do you differentiate, right?
There is so much to unpack there, Andrea. Wow. You know, those of us who've worked in the telecom space over the years, you know, we built our own cloud. We used OpenStack, OpenShift, things like that, because we needed that cloud thing, but but there was always the fear of getting in bed with the hyperscalers. They're partnering with them now, but every telco was using one of those open source cloud platforms because, you know, they wanted control over it. They needed whatever, and they didn't want to pay the money. And I get it. But then you said something else that's interesting, you know, differentiation.
Yeah.
If you're differentiated, then you might have some cool value that's going to attract customers. If you're undifferentiated, this is a marketing thing. If you have a commodity undifferentiated product, then 100% of your money almost needs to be spent on marketing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a Faustian bargain to engage in an open ecosystem, right? So you're, hey, that worked. Nice. That is weird. Some engineers at Zoom are very bored.
Well, automatically Zoom on the Mac does that. I didn't have to turn anything on. It just
I didn't. I don't know.
Oh, really? It just detected what you.
There we go. Look,
he got his hearts going.
I didn't do anything. Oh well.
But no, I was saying like there's a trade-off, right? Because you know you trade off a little bit of you trade off your differentiation opportunities by buying into an open ecosystem because anything you do has to sort of fit into that ecosystem framework, and so that's the Faustian bargain. But in exchange for that, the idea is that you could scale by building on top of other people's work that you don't have to reinvent from scratch. So you could scale as a company faster by leveraging an open ecosystem. But the trade-off is you can't really innovate. You can't do anything you want. It has to work.
That's right. So what does that do to innovation? Yeah.
Let's use an example here in Estados Unidos. You have Verizon, you've got T-Mobile, and you have AT&T. Mm-hmm. It's a commodity business. And who is out marketing? One of them's out marketing the other two 24/7. And they came from last place to first. And it's 100% marketing.
And it's not T-Mobile you're talking about, right?
I'm talking about T-Mobile. Absolutely, I'm talking about T-Mobile. I'm naming names. I'm naming names. And it's working. And I have friends, we have all friends who work for the other mobile operators who might say, but our network's better, or we got better than this, or we got more fiber, or whatever. It doesn't matter. The carpet bombing on TV ads 24/7 from T-Mobile, it's working. Whose stock price has been going up? All the other ones are.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, you get to that. It gets to market. It gets to channel. There's like skewing and offers and, bundles and, things like that. But from a tech perspective, you might not have the best technology, in which case you need to boost your value prop in some other way.
But I think all three of them have the best technology.
They're undifferentiated.
That's the thing. All three of them have the best technology.
So when you're undifferentiated, it's about marketing.
Yeah.
Or percentage of your spend has got to be on marketing if you're in a commodity business. If I'm selling coffee, how's my coffee different than Joe's coffee or Starbucks coffee or whatever? I got to market and find a niche.
Right.
Like Black Rifle Coffee, Special Forces, military. We're going after that group. We have coffee beans just like everybody else's coffee beans. So what's the difference? We're going to have cool videos with guys with MP4s and stuff like that. And that'll go to a certain market who buys their coffee at Cabela's.
So a couple of weeks ago, we touched upon SA standalone.
Yeah.
The fact that
5G standalone.
Now the networks are being launched. We've seen recently.
Yeah.
Announcements about that. And I was saying, I personally sold standalone in Canada 3 years ago. Hey.
I remember.
Howdy, strangers. Sorry I'm coming in super late. Slide in.
I came in just 7 minutes ago, so yeah. We're late on Valentine's.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just to finish that quickly. I sold that in Canada 3 years ago, and just now it's being launched. And when I sold it for a fact that the product worked, I didn't sell a trial or stuff that it was. The company I worked for was super serious about selling readiness and competence and all that. So the product worked. So why did it take?
Can you remind our audience or somebody what is the advantages of having standalone?
So standalone is the true 5G when you have a core network and a system that's designed specifically for the requirements of 5G and for the targets of 5G. So you start meeting the latency and the speed requirements that were specified. Because prior to standalone, so this is a dedicated, standalone is dedicating, is not using the LTE network. It's not using the LTE nodes. The first launches of 5G were using somehow the LTE legacy, which was fine, and it was
non-standalone,
a clever way. The non-standalone, but it was using that, and when you use that, you start having some delays, some limitations, some restrictions. But with standalone, now you kind of open the floodgates to start offering applications that meet the lofty goals of 5G, specifically in terms of low latency and high speed. So
a lot of the features, right? A lot of the advanced features of 5G, you need the 5G core.
That's right.
Like network slicing and things like that.
And for network slicing, that's one of the big ones, right?
And also, it's a more efficient use of the spectrum, isn't it? I mean, for a telco, it's a much more efficient use of the spectrum that they paid for is to go with a standalone implementation. So
it is. So it took so long to get that software that was sold 3 years ago to get it to the market, and that's because it's not that simple that you bought the core applications, the packet core applications from the vendor. And now, you can just go put them on a stack and launch. It's not that simple, right? And that was the first question they had to answer: is that do they build their own cloud, or do they use a public cloud, or do they do a hybrid version? And with whom they did that, with whom they partnered, and how they put it all together in a stack. I think that took time, and plus the devices, right? Let's not forget the readiness of devices. But for me, it was quite interesting. I don't know if it's that interesting to you or our audience, that it took so long to get it to them.
It's money and people and time to do that. Obviously, the way we did it was the right way to do it, because there's always the whole chicken and the egg thing about different Gs and phones and stuff like that. And so you have a world that's 99.999% LTE phones and then brand new little 5Gs. And of course, it made sense that you connect initially with your LTE, say, oh, I just noticed you got 5G. I'm going to upgrade you, and you're good to go. That makes perfect sense during that transition period, right? Yeah. And then when you think everybody's there, not quite, but then you can do the standalone thing.
Yeah, so it's always these things always take a long time, and it was the problem is 5G. The value prop of 5G was sold on a lot of the capabilities of standalone, and so there was a lot of hype initially, and then years go by and people don't see it, and then they sour on it, and it's just I think the expectations were misset in terms of the capabilities and timing on 5G, and so the industry is suffering.
And one of the applications, since we're an IoT Coffee Talk, is the critical IoT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been sold on paper, right? Remember, critical IoT, do remote surgery, because and then people started wondering, well, wait a minute, who needs to do remote surgery? I mean, is that use case of it? So forget whether the network is ready, but
surgery.
But Chetan Sharma did it at his Mobile Future Forward event a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. I remember being there.
Well, I remember the Verizon TV commercials. They had mobile surgery going on.
Yeah,
I personally believe in it. Okay, so I'm not bringing it up because I don't believe in it.
Well, we have to remind all of our audience is there's that cool 5G speed, and then there's the internet, which mobile operators do not control at all. And eventually, within microseconds, you will be on the open internet, and your speed and latency will be determined by something out of your control, which sadly blows up the whole story.
Unless you own
the whole thing.
Maybe
unless you're strictly on the carrier network.
Yeah.
Yeah, or unless
not breaking out. Fine.
Exactly,
maybe if both of us were on hitting the same cell tower, and maybe that'll be.
Yeah.
It's like when we were launching 5G at Ericsson at Mobile World Congress in 2019. I guess is the big come out deal that we did, and we had the bands playing music, on either side. It was showing off. It was showing off the low latency, and so you're right. When you control the whole system and all the paths, it works. But as soon as you have to go on the backhaul network and then hop to other networks and go through a bunch of switches and routers and la la land. Sadly, you all bets are off, and the speed of light's really slow, and that sucks, and so that hits you as well. I often, sometimes, you know me, I love to post speed test apps, screenshots all the time from different places, and sometimes I'll post one where it's like, let's say it's the LinkedIn app struggling to render, and I'll go, well, this is amazing though. I've got 5 bars and whatever. What could be the problem? Oh, crappy backhaul network. You may have great RAN and great, front haul, but when you're in a rural area, a lot of times, people forget that wireless is made of wires, and so it's made of fiber. Fiber is the power. In fact, I think the AT&T CEO a few months ago said it great, where he just kind of came out and said, "Listen, this wireless stuff that we're doing." It's just for the last mile. The whole system is based on fiber.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not even based on fiber. Sometimes it's microwave repeaters in the middle of nowhere bouncing off of mountaintops. Yeah. And so if you're in the rural area and you think, I should be getting 2 gig download speeds because I got all my bars and I'm 5G, but yet I can't, my Facebook won't load. It's because of backhaul. The backhaul sucks. It's microwave or it's not fiber. You don't control that. Each tower, it could be different. In a perfect world, there's fiber for everybody everywhere, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, that's the thing, and why it's so difficult to deliver on quality of experience,
quality of service,
quality of demand, as they call it now, with the whole Kamara and Open Gateway initiative. But that's true.
Speaking of open, another open initiative.
Open
ecosystems.
Another overly abused term.
Yes. Ericsson and Vonage are going to make hay with Kamara or Canberra. APIs. We needed Vonage to do APIs. I don't know why we thought that, but yeah. $6 billion to do APIs to do network programming for developers.
But I think just circling back to Andrea's point, I think now that standalone is going to be rolled out, you're going to have, in general, like an improvement, right? An improvement in performance and downloads and latency.
Yeah.
Will it unlock, mobile surgery? Maybe in some very specific use cases. But I think it's good. It's good that we're finally getting to the milestone as an industry where we can start using 5G, as it was originally intended, as opposed to the sort of non-standalone Band-Aid half step.
Right.
We have the handsets now too, right? I mean, 3 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of chips, a lot of radios, 5G red cap. I mean, there's lots of cool stuff over the next 3 to 5 years. I think you'll see 5G in much more commercial deployments than just handsets.
And then we have Open RAN.
Yeah.
Speaking of open ecosystems.
Yeah, we were talking about that. The Washington Post had this article this morning on Open RAN and, and eventually, and we'll see at MWC, I think everyone is going to talk about Open RAN, but, is it really interchangeable Open RAN, or is it like I have my Open RAN stack and they have their Open RAN stack, and I've qualified this very short list of folks to work with my Open RAN stack, and it's Open RAN, but maybe if you really want it to all work together, just buy the whole thing from me.
Well,
yeah,
it is just still about just testing. It's nothing revolutionary, right? It's like they're still at the testing phase. How do we test interoperability? It's like an interoperability lab. So
right.
If anything, it's just a indication of how nascent Open RAN is, and
well, it's very difficult to go from a closed ecosystem into an open ecosystem. It's very hard to do that. And if you looked over history of tech, things that are well established is very closed. It's very hard to disaggregate.
Very hard, especially here where you have a ton of installed base, and with that,
the entire Earth.
It's the entire Earth and mindset that comes with that, right? So, and the proponents of Open RAN talk about the biggest advantage of that is innovation, right? And I have my doubts with that. Right?
Let's give Pipper a history lesson of Open RAN and what's different about it or whatever. Like for the longest period of time, when you say Open RAN, you're thinking Mavenir. They were the champions of Open RAN.
Yes, absolutely.
They pushed it more than anybody did. And then Rakuten used Open RAN, right, to put together their network.
And then Rakuten bought Altiostar, which was a startup on Open RAN.
Yep, that's right.
Don't forget Dish.
Yeah, Dish. Yep, we're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. Here's the weird thing. A lot of it's about money, though. And cost for the operator.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go. Yeah, but go ahead.
It might be the biggest factor. So children, if we go back in time to the early days of mobile operators and even to modern day, dedicated, very expensive, fit-for-purpose hardware servers were used to make your mobile networks work. And they were finely tuned because it needs to be so fast and handles more people than anything we've ever built. And so the only way to do that was these insane boxes, Unix,
custom silicon.
Yeah. And that was the only way you made it work. And then Zuck came along and Google came along, Sergey, and they said, actually, we're going to use cheap commodity hardware for our things. And these guys beat Azure and AWS to the cloud by building crazy scale stuff early on. And they're the ones who kind of said, we got to use cheap commodity x86 servers, and software is going to stitch it all together because we know they're going to be failing all the time and they're not as good as this dedicated AIX box I'm buying from IBM or whatever. And so, or Sun Microsystems. And so they did that, and people sat back and watched. The biggest online thing ever built is Facebook. I know people love to bash Facebook, but it's just Facebook's bigger than any country or bigger than most countries all put together, actually. And so no one even comes close. And so people looked at what is Facebook doing? What was Google doing? Because they had to build this giant infrastructure. Remember, they didn't build it to give away like Azure. They did it for a purpose, right? I'm doing search. I need the best search on the planet. I'm building this Google thing. So I think over time, and so obviously AWS and Microsoft looked and said, oh, well, I remember Microsoft, we were building Azure. We called it a sled, but it was just, I'm going to quit buying expensive switches from Cisco and I'm going to roll my own. And I'm going to quit buying servers from Dell and HP. And I'm going to build my own. And my software is going to keep the whole thing running because there are going to be thousands of servers are failing every day.
Virtualization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the mobile operators started looking at that and going, we're paying a fortune for the most expensive hardware on the planet. and like, how can we be like Facebook or these other guys? That's the genesis of this whole Open RAN movement is how can we make commodity hardware, but with software, make it work? And what's the possible downside? Depending on the programming language you chose,
it won't work.
Hardware, it won't be as fast. In fact, it's never going to be as fast as the fit-for-purpose dedicated ASICs and the hardware you built.
Just where everyone's going now. And it was just false equivalency. That's the thing. It's like when people come up with these hype narratives and then you subscribe to it, you go down a rabbit hole. And next thing you know, you end up in Wonderland and you wonder, how did this not work? I mean, that's a perfect example. It is truly a false equivalency because Facebook's data center and their cloud is nothing like Google's or Amazon's, right? And their cloud is nothing like what you need out in the telco, central offices and the edge. It's just not the same. And so just taking this generalized, simplified concept or notion,
concepts and principles.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But hey, Stephanie, what's up? You have to say, what's your reaction? We need to hear from you before we shut this thing down at some point.
I caught in so late. I'm like, I don't even have anything to offer here, but
oh god.
No, I just been busy. A lot of client projects. So
good. Yeah.
A lot of technology and marketing coming together. So I've been busy with some stuff. So apologize. I feel like I haven't seen you guys and seen your faces in so long.
We missed you.
Yeah, we're so glad you dialed in today. Especially.
And I'm not going to Mobile World Congress because I can't, because I have big projects due that week. So I'm like sad because I really wanted to go this year. Every year I want to go and I can't make it.
So who's going besides Leonard?
I think
Leonard
here. Yeah.
Just Leonard.
I got a wedding to be at. My son's wedding.
Well, you have a fabulous excuse.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Where's the wedding? What area?
It's up here in the Pacific Northwest. If you hopped on a ferry from Seattle and went across like to Bainbridge and Paulsbo.
Yeah.
Anyway,
nice.
The wedding's over there. And there's this neat event place along the waterway that is between Bainbridge Island and the mainland. There's this bridge. And anyway, if you go down it's the reception, all that's going to be there. Well, obviously Kathy and I will be running the, rehearsal dinner.
Yes. Parents pay for that.
Yeah. And Paulsbo. And so we'll be doing that. So we got people flying in from all over the country, all over the place.
Cool.
And they're like, wow, we're going to fly to the Northwest for a wedding in the winter. Didn't see that.
No. Congratulations, though.
Well, at least it's late winter, early spring.
Yeah. Obviously, our winter has not been like it's been in the past.
Right.
I went out for a walk.
Sunny out. Right now, it's sunny and about 45 degrees. So that's not too bad.
Pretty nice. I know. I went out for a walk yesterday and it was sunny and 50 when I went out for a walk. I was like, okay,
nice.
January.
Texas is going to hit 80 degrees, I heard, next week.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah, we're at 60 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm not going to Mobile World Congress either. I haven't been in 2019. So I have a birthday this year. I'm a leap year baby, so this year
yay!
And I want to spend it with my family, so I'm going to be at Auburn.
So much younger than the rest of us.
Such a rare.
To my son and my husband and family. Yes.
Fun. Well, you know what's happening in what is it, April 8th or April 9th, the big eclipse that's happening.
Yes.
So they're expecting, 500,000 plus people in the hill country where I live, because it is a perfect viewing area. And so we're expecting like mass volumes, and they're actually closing down schools and everything because they said you won't be able to get to your schools.
Wow.
Oh, no way.
So you talk about network disruption. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the hill country with all those people coming in April for the eclipse.
Yeah, using their phones.
Right?
Hopefully you got some 5G standalone towers there.
I know. My husband's like, should we open up the ranch to I'm like, we don't need the risk or the invasion.
Yeah.
Well, but I get where he's coming from. It's like people letting you park in their driveway for the Super Bowl or renting out your house. You could create an entire campground at your ranch for all these lovely people who are going to come to see perfectly mannered, well-behaved people who are going to come watch.
Sure, that's the problem.
That's the problem. I have a friend.
His fear is like we wake up the next morning and someone shot one of our animals because they thought it was a hunting operation. And he's like, oh no, yeah, it would be great to make some money off of this, because there's a lot of people we know that are making money. They're going to make some serious money when this happens that week.
I can imagine. I have a friend coming from Montreal with the astronomy club.
Oh,
but I didn't ask him where they're staying.
Okay.
So he said,
yeah, I heard that Fredericksburg and Bernie and some of the surrounding, they're all booked, completely booked. They've been booked for more than a year.
Let's hope it's not a cloudy day.
Yeah.
I'm like, who knew?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's pray for really clear skies and good weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's
a new moon. Maybe a front come in the night before, so it clears it out.
You never know. Could be. Andrea, you still doing the healthcare thing?
I gotta run.
All right.
For that.
All right.
Yes, I am, but I've got to run. I just realized now because I always have a call at 11:30, so I gotta get ready for that.
Great. See
Good to see you guys.
Good to
Happy
see you.
Valentine's.
Take care.
Everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's.
Feeling the love. IoT Coffee Talk.
Yeah.
It's Valentine's Day, so did you wake up this morning, with rose petals all over the house or anything like that?
You know what? I got to show you what my husband got me because it's sitting here. But it's funny because my husband sees me admiring my two boys and him have these great hunting jackets, and they're so warm. And I'm like, when am I going to get mine? Like, that's not something I would ever buy. But so that's what he got me. Just the Kuyu brand jacket.
Oh, wow.
But you know what? I'm like, it's not really a Valentine's Day gift, but I'll take it.
There's probably a red heart tucked in one of the pockets.
Yeah, there you go.
No, we have nice dinner plans tonight, which is kind of rare to actually go out on in the middle of the week. But we're gonna go enjoy a local place with some wine and get some good food. But you guys have any big plans for the ladies?
Doing a nice dinner at a place called Cafe Flora, which if anyone's ever in the Seattle area, I highly recommend. It's like the best plant-based restaurant probably around, I think. And we actually go there quite often, but tonight they have a price fix menu, and it's like a very nice
special Valentine's menu.
Evening.
Nice. Rob?
Kathy's coaching volleyball practice tonight.
It's the middle of the week for some reason.
You're putting a lot of pressure on us, Stephanie.
I know. I told the boys, I'm like, when you drive home from school, you're going to have to pick up food for yourselves because we're going out tonight. They were like, what? Like, how dare you? Yeah, it's a rare thing.
Yeah, I think we're going to take a Valentine's walk. We're going to do
leave those kids at home for a second.
Yeah.
You going into Fredericksburg?
Not weird.
Me? I'm actually going to into Centerpoint, Texas. Zanzibar is the name of the restaurant, and it's nice. It's kind of that's just a small town.
I do know Centerpoint. My uncle used to have a big place and property right on the Guadalupe River as it goes through Center. So I'm very familiar. I knew a lot of people at some point thought Centerpoint's going to be the next Bernie.
Nope. It's still small.
Nope.
But there's one like high-end restaurant there, and it's like the place to be. So we were happy to get reservations.
That's cool. That's cool. Outstanding. That's really nice. I like to
Fabulous.
Awesomeness.
I forgot about the extra day in February.
Yeah, I did too.
An extra day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So should we wrap it up?
Yes, wrap it up.
Good.
All right, who wants to take us out?
I can't take us out because I didn't know what took us in. So
You need to take us out. Just make something up. Talk about Elevate Our Kids.
Yeah.
There you go.
oh yes, so let's talk about Elevate Our Kids. So we did not meet our goal of passing our previous fundraising from 22 to 2023. So we would love for you guys to support the organization, elevateourkids.org, and you can click on the donate button. Or Rob, you can actually go on, and there's a link to actually purchase IoT Coffee Talk clothing, and it's on Etsy. All of that, 100% of the proceeds go to benefit elevateourkids.org. And you can also visit us on iotcoffeetalk.com. Until next week, feel the love, feel the burn. IoT Coffee Talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Does that work?
Oh, I love it. The hearts.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
All right.
Yay!
Hey.